We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature, whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes. Nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With All Trails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation. Download the free app today.
Welcome to mini episode number 451 of Real Life Ghost Stories, and I have one spooky story for you today, and it's from February the 19th, 2025, and our story today comes from Sara. When I was 11, my family moved into a new townhouse in Doylestown, Pennsylvania. We were struggling to move out of Philadelphia at the time, as everything was so expensive. One day, my mom and I were driving home from a doctor's appointment when we decided to explore some neighbourhoods and saw a for rent sign on one of the houses. We knocked and the woman who lived there surprisingly let us in to tour the place right on the spot. We absolutely loved it and called my dad to tell him that we think we found a place. We moved in a few months later and I was absolutely thrilled that my sister and I had our own bathroom and that the whole basement was our playroom. At first, things were great. New house, new school, new friends. I was living the dream. Till I started to notice that at night, my dog was having some sort of episode in her sleep that would wake me up. I would feel the bed shaking and would pet her to calm her down, and it would stop. This happened for months, and the vet said everything was fine and was not sure what was going on. Maybe anxiety? Well, here's the thing. No, it wasn't anxiety. Actually, it wasn't even my fucking dog. I woke up to the shaking one night and went to reach for her, but she wasn't there. She wasn't even in my room. I hauled ass out of there and ran downstairs when I noticed the lights on. My dog was cuddled on the couch with my mom and I freaked out explaining what happened. My mom checked my room, my closet, my sister's room, everything. There was nothing up there. She said maybe it was just in my head because I was so used to feeling it. Fair enough, maybe it was. Or maybe it was some invisible shit shaking my bed because it happened again and again until it finally happened while I was awake. I literally heard the frame creaking as pressure was applied to the headboard and watched my bed scoot away from the wall with me in the bed. I was awake. I was watching a movie and I was 100% not asleep. I started screaming, but of course the second my mom opened the door, it stopped. It eventually stopped doing it once I started to straight up ignore it and go back to sleep. From here, things started happening more and more. My parents' bedroom wall was on the other side of my closet wall. My mom would knock on the wall when she was out of toilet paper or needed something if she knew I was in there. You can see where this is going, yes? Well, one day I heard the knocking. Went to her room, but all the lights were off. Weird. I checked the bathroom, empty. Maybe I was too slow to come out and she went downstairs already. I went down to ask her, but no, she said she had not been upstairs in a few hours. A few weeks later, the same thing. And I said, "Yeah, Mom?" Silence. So I called out to her again. I just about shit myself when the knock turned into banging. Thinking my mom was in some sort of distress, I ran into her bathroom only to find it empty. However, it wasn't just that the bathroom was empty. The whole house was. No one was home from work yet. I ran into the basement and stayed there until my parents and sister got home. I told them what happened and my parents said, maybe it was the cat. Yeah, that's totally it. Simon learned how to open doors and knock on the wall. So it's been months at this point, and I'm the only one experiencing anything. Seems to be in my room. No one believes me. Well, until my 2-year-old sister introduced me to her friend. My sister Liz was 2 at the time. She developed this imaginary friend named Necky. Not Nicky, not Nick, Necky. She said he looked like a pirate, so we called him Necky Pirate. This became her best friend. Everywhere she went, Necky went. He had a seat in the car, a seat at dinner, got tucked in at bedtime, the whole shebang. One night while babysitting my sister, we were in the living room watching TV when I got some pains in my side. I decided to lay on the couch and let her play. The pain kept pushing into my side until I felt like I was going to vomit. I started to cry and my sister looked up at me and gasped. She came running over to stand in front of me and was pointing on top of my side, yelling, "Necky, off! Off, Sara!" I started losing my shit and crying more because what the actual hell is happening? Is Necky real? Is someone actually doing something to me? I started to yell back, "Get off!" when my sister stared right in my face laughing and said,
"He's sitting on top of you."
Her voice sounded so creepy and deep. The laugh was not her laugh. It sounded sinister and dark. And this full-ass sentence was coming from a baby who was only at the stage of shoving words together that was enough to let you figure out what the fuck she wanted. I screamed more while crying hysterically until suddenly everything stopped and the pain went away. When I opened my eyes, my sister was staring at the ceiling laughing and slowly walked backwards until whatever she was watching went away. She went back to playing like nothing happened, and I was stuck, sitting there, traumatized, till my parents got home. I told them what happened, but again, no one believed me. According to them, I just had cramps and Liz was just being a kid. Yeah, a creepy fucking hellhound of a kid, but go off, I guess. So now I have my bedroom randomly messing with me. My sister is half possessed with an invisible demon pirate as a friend, and my parents think I'm a psycho who makes shit up every time I'm home alone. I would be in the basement on the computer when the door handle next to me would violently shake and turn. I would hear bangs on random walls around the entire house. The lights would turn off on me while I was showering. I would feel eyes watching me while I got ready for school at 6 a.m. in the kitchen. I would hear voices and footsteps from other rooms and floors of the house while I was home alone. Things just kept getting worse, and I had to deal with it alone. Being in that house went from the best experience ever to the worst in just a few short months. I got in the habit of riding my bike basically every second that I wasn't in school or in the house. A neighbour friend would ride with me and we would go into the woods, to the playgrounds or to his house until I had to leave for dinner. One day, me and this friend were riding bikes along the back of the houses when he pulled over and pointed and said, "Who is that?" He was pointing to my basement door. I looked across the grass and saw my pop waving to me from inside the basement sliding door. I got so excited and I said, "It's Pop," and pedalled home as fast as I could. I slid my bike into the driveway and ran inside. My mom was in the kitchen when I came running in asking where Pop was. "Pop? Yeah, me and Corey just saw him in the basement." She got pale and said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, we were just waving at him." She told me to stay in the kitchen and she grabbed a knife and went to check the basement. She came back a few minutes later and said, "No one is here, it's just me. Your dad took Liz to the store to get stuff for dinner." I felt like I was going to vomit again, this time from the overwhelming feeling of seeing something not only that wasn't there, but that looked like my Pop and that my friend also saw. I told her I wasn't lying. Corey was the one who saw him first. I swear I saw him standing there waving. To my surprise, she said she believed me and gave me a hug. I got ready for dinner and stayed by her side the rest of the night. For the first time, I finally felt like I wasn't being crazy or seeing things. The following week, my parents had to go out, so it was just my sister and I in the house alone. We had moved the computer to my parents' bedroom at this point. Dad's idea. I think he saw something in the basement and didn't want to tell me. So my sister was on my parents' bed with snacks watching TV, while I sat and customised the living hell out of my MySpace. The good old days, right? I heard a woman angrily yell and I jumped. My sister was staring at the hallway and looked at me like she was scared too. I muted the TV and listened again, thinking maybe our parents came home and were arguing. We heard someone again, talking angrily, and then heard a man's voice reply. I looked out the window, but their car wasn't back yet. I told my sister to be quiet and put her on the floor between the bed and the computer desk. I slowly tiptoed over to the bedroom door and listened downstairs. The voices were 100% coming from the living room right under us, right down that staircase. I peered through the balcony but could only see the front door, which was still closed and locked. I couldn't understand what the people were saying, but then I heard the woman scream at the man. I jumped out of my skin and quietly closed and locked the bedroom door. I grabbed the house phone off the nightstand and called my parents' cell phone. My mom answered, saying they would be home in about half an hour. I was quietly crying and told her people were downstairs fighting. She freaked out and asked me to explain. She told me to hang up and call the cops and keep the doors locked, and she and my dad would head home right now. So, panicked, I called the cops and explained what was happening. The dispatcher stayed on the phone with me asking questions until the cops came. She heard the people yelling too, and told me the cops were there but not seeing anyone through the windows. They said I had to come and unlock the door and they will watch through the window to make sure that no one is there. So with the cops on the phone, I sprinted downstairs and opened the front door for the cops, then sprinted back upstairs into the bedroom and relocked the door. The cops checked everything but did not see or hear anyone. They came to get me, and the woman on the phone explained to them that she did hear people as well. We never figured out what it was, but all the neighbours came outside and no one fessed up to anyone arguing, so I guess that one will remain a mystery. Fast forward, I was in my bedroom listening to music one Saturday, cleaning my room. I heard my dad yell and ran out into the hallway to see what was happening. He came bursting out of my parents' room looking shocked and confused. He said we had to leave, and I kept asking why, and he said we just had to. So we went to the neighbour's house and he talked to the adults while I played with my friend. A few weeks later, my mom, my sister and I were pulling into the driveway when we noticed my dad coming from the neighbour's house in his pyjamas. We asked what was wrong. And Mr. Skeptic, my dad, outside in front of all of us, said, "I saw an older woman walk through the dining room table at me. Turns out this bitch had also walked out of his closet at him that day that he yelled and made us leave. Who's the crazy one now, Dad?" So at this point, we're all experiencing things, and I'm no longer the black sheep about to be 302'd. My mom confirmed that she also heard knocking from the bathroom, my bedroom wall, a few times. They both saw this woman a few times. I never did, thank God, because no thank you. And Necky Pirate remained an absolute horrifying menace until my sister was about 7. Yeah, 7. That motherfucker stuck around for way too long. We moved out of that house after a couple of years, to which I was overjoyed. Now, here's some whack shit that has happened to me recently. I'll keep this one short and to the point. Some people will believe me and some people will not. Do with this what you will, but I have witnesses, so suck it. Now I'm 31. My creepy baby sister Liz is now 21. We went out to eat with our two cousins B and J late one night. At around 10 p.m. we were sitting in a booth eating some dinner. My sister was against the window with me next to her on the outside. My cousin J was on the other side against the window facing Liz. My cousin B was on the outside facing me. J is telling us a story, so we're all facing him. I had my head propped up on my hand so that I could see Liz and J and could not see B. I could, however, see all of our reflections in the window. From the corner of my eye, I watched B's hand lay her phone on the table. I looked back in the window and saw B now starting to stand up. I assumed that she was running to go to the bathroom, and I turned my head to say, "I'll go with you." But when I looked up, she was gone. I quickly looked back in the window and her reflection was gone too. So she was not standing there. This all happened in a matter of seconds. I sat up and turned around to look behind me, nothing. When I turned to face Liz and Jay, Jay was staring at me pale and said, "Where the fuck did my sister go?" I said, "Okay, I'm not crazy, right? She was just here." He said, "Yeah, I watched her stand up. Where is she?" We looked in both booths in front of and behind us. We looked in the parking lot. The front door was right near us and she was just nowhere. My sister is now teary-eyed and freaked out trying to figure out what's happening. I start panicking too. I run down this long-ass hallway to the bathroom to see if she is there. As I approach the door, it opens and there is B standing wide-eyed looking back at me. I let out all the air I'd been holding in and said, "Are you okay?" Confused, she said, "Yeah, what's wrong with you?" I told her what happened and she looked utterly terrified. As we were walking back to the table, Jay stood up shocked and yelled, No fucking way." Some people may say, okay, so she went to the bathroom and you didn't see her go. No. The bathroom hallway was across the restaurant. There is literally no possible way that I could have seen her hand sit her phone down or Jay watch B stand up and then she magically make it down the hallway without us seeing her. We could see down the entire hallway to the bathroom doors from where we were sitting. We would have 100% seen her back walking away. There was not a single other customer in the restaurant while we were there. No one could have blocked our view, nothing. Believe what you want, but this was absolutely horrific. And we still talk about it almost daily, and it's been 4 months because we were that scared and freaked out. Was it a portal? Did time somehow change around us and not affect B? Did time affect B and not us? I wish we thought to ask the restaurant for security footage, but we never even thought of it. Still kicking ourselves over that one. A few days later, B called me to tell me something weird happened to her again, but this time it was other people, and she was the one witnessing it. She was walking on a trail, and she walks this trail every week in the morning, when 2 guys passed her and she was walking back to her car. They said good morning, she said good morning, and then nothing. Complete silence. She said it was so eerie because she heard them talking as they were coming up and heard their footsteps, but as soon as they passed her, it was silent. She turned around and said they were just gone, not there. She even walked back up in the direction that they were going, but it wasn't enough time passed for her to not be able to catch up with them. Where did they go? The trail is only one path, and if they went off it, surely she would still be able to see or hear them. She called me the second this happened, and as she was walking back to her car, she noticed her car was the only one there. This is not a path that you can walk from anywhere. You have to drive in and park and then go and walk. Did time slip? Did she see something from the past or the future? Well, I'm not sure, but they did acknowledge her. Did she slip and then they saw her and then she disappeared for them? I don't know. All I know is that this is some freaky shit that I don't understand, and I hope it stops happening because what the hell? Okay, so I'm going to start with the, apparent time slip story, right? And I can understand why you feel defensive about it, where you're like, I know that people aren't going to believe that this happened or how it happened, but it did happen and it freaked us out. Clearly, something happened. If it freaked you all out so much that your little sister had tears in her eyes, that you're still talking about it 4 months later. And I can understand why you would be so terrified, because I think if I was faced with the possibility of a time slip in that way, where you're all sharing this moment, I would shit myself. I feel like the fragility of time or the flexibility of time really freaks me out, because we always feel like time is a constant. You know what I mean? Time is just something that is, we can rely on time, but apparently not. Apparently we can't even rely on time in this world, okay? And it freaks me out. And I believe you, Sarah. I believe this happened to you. I believe that you have had an experience that terrified all of you. I don't know how to explain it. I don't have anything else to add. Only that time slips scare me. Is there something about certain people being more susceptible to time slips? Like, is B more susceptible to a time slip than anybody else? We talk all the time about how some people are more susceptible to paranormal experiences, like children, for example, or just some people are more tuned in to the other world. Is there a possibility that some people are more susceptible to time slips too, and that's why she saw those people on the trail as well? Oh, that gives me the heebie-jeebies, I think, more than anything else. That scares me. Although the sound of your haunted house is pretty horrendous. Like, waking up to your bed shaking, that's classic haunted house stuff. And the fact that you initially thought it was the dog means that it's unlikely that you were imagining it, because you thought there was a reason for it. You thought it was your dog. You took your dog to the vet, for God's sake. You know, so you weren't sitting there going, oh, this is a paranormal thing, so you're more susceptible to it, so you're imagining things. You were just thinking, oh shit, the dog, something's going on with the dog. Is the dog having seizures or whatever? And then you realise, oh no, it's not the dog, it's the bed. And I do think it's really fascinating that it seems to have centred around you and your little sister initially. Like, you were the one to experience the shaking, you were the one to experience the knocks on the wall, and your sister is obviously, having this imaginary friend called Necky Pirate. Does she still remember Necky Pirate, or has that memory disappeared? And like, the fact that Necky Pirate had the ability to physically hurt you, to be sitting on your side and physically hurt you, does that mean that Necky Pirate was the one that was shaking the bed? Like, does that mean that there's an invisible pirate man standing, physically shaking your bed, but you just couldn't see him? Or do these things happen because like entities will them to happen? Do you know what I mean? And were you experiencing like doppelganger activity? Do you know, when you were at home being like, oh, Pop's home, woo, this is exciting, and your mom's like, no, he's not here actually. And you and your friend have seen him in the basement. Like, it's not like you're the only one that has seen him. You know what I mean? Like, I just find all of the activity in this house is so wild. Like, there's a lot going on there. And then similarly, to be hearing voices to a degree where you think there's people in the house, obviously you're going to ring the police. Obviously, if you think there's 2 children in the house and there's random strangers that are fighting in the house downstairs, you are going to ring the police. There is no reason why you wouldn't. And the fact that the dispatcher on the phone heard those voices too, heard those people arguing, was that like a residual thing that you heard? You know, and then you've got your dad physically seeing an older woman walk out of the closet and then walk through the dining table. I am very much glad that your dad also saw it and was like, oh, maybe I should have, listened when my daughter was saying all these terrifying things were happening. But I do think that, I imagine, I'm not a parent, as I always say, I've never been a parent, but I imagine when you have 2 small children that you're sort of a bit in survival mode all the time, or any number of children. And then if they start saying, oh, this weird shit is happening in the house, you're like, I can't deal with this on top of everything else. Okay. But then it does get very validating when they finally go, oh no, actually weird shit is happening. I wonder, my big takeaway from this is, does your sister remember Necky Pirate? Not that it, makes any difference to the story now, but I wonder what her perception of it is now. You know what I mean? Or does she just forget that period of her life? Equally, I would kind of love to know if B has experienced time slips and not realised it. Because that's even more wild to think about. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Thank you to Sara for sending in your stories. Remember, Sara's story came from February the 19th, 2025. And if you would like to send in your story, you can do so by emailing it to reallifeghoststoriespodcast@gmail.com. You can also check out the website, reallifeghoststoriespodcast.com. And if you are desperate for some extra content, you can subscribe to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/reallifeghoststories, where for $5 a month or $2 a month, you can get access to heaps of extra content, as well as every single main and mini episode completely ad-free. And on that note, I shall see you next time.
A happy place comes in many colors. Whatever your color, bring happiness home with CertaPro Painters and make your happy place your home. CertaPro Painters, that's painting happy. During our spring sales event, special offers are available through April 30th. Schedule your home painting project today and bring happiness home. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated. Contractor license and registration information is available at CertaPro.com.
It already feels like home.